Hey Kevin, yeah? Could you cook some rice? Sure man, sure. Give me some time. And while we're waiting for the rice to cook, since you're Chinese, would you be able to help me with my math assignment? What the fuck, bro? What the fuck? Why are you stereotyping me? Is it just because I'm Chinese that I'm good at math? But sure, I do have some math competition trophies in my home. Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Hello Canal podcast. What you just heard in the first few seconds, that's really an issue that I encountered when I was in university. So, and a friend of mine, a very close friend of mine who's Australian, came up to me and asked me to cook some rice, right? We're basically at his place, his home, and we were gathering to complete an assignment together. And on top of that, he also has some math assignments from his classes. And he just basically just reached out to me directly, because number one, he's not sure if he's doing it the right way with his math assignment. And number two, just because I'm Chinese. So what happened was, because I'm Chinese, he assumed that I was good with cooking rice and I'm good with math. And unfortunately, that stereotyping is correct for me, at least. And that's what I want to discuss about today, right? And today's topic is going to be about generalization and stereotyping. Now, before we just kick off, right, everyone, I hope you're nice in a safe, comfortable environment. And maybe what we'll be discussing today might step on other people's toes, right? But please bear with me, because actually not recently, it's been many years since everyone has been trying to squeal and say that, hey, just because you shouldn't be stereotyping anyone, you shouldn't be generalizing a population, a nation, or even a race. That's not the right standards. But what I'm trying to present here today is to counter argue on that point, because there is a reason why generalization and stereotyping happens. And okay, so listen on, I'm going to talk about it. So before we begin, right, I first want to clarify what is the difference between generalization and stereotyping. These two concepts may seem similar to you, and actually they do seem similar to me as well, but there is a very minor difference. A generalization basically is like a starting point. Generalizations usually help us make sense of our world using information that we already know. As we get to know people from other walks of life, we may see that they do not fit the generalization. At that point, as open-minded individuals, we should adjust our way of thinking about the individual and quite possibly all other people from the same culture or heritage. And for stereotyping, basically that's more of like to a case-by-case example to the subject matter directly. So no effort is made, to ascertain whether it is appropriate to apply to the person in question. I know it's a bit complicated, but okay, let me just share with you an example to make it easier. So the example here is basically, if I meet a Chinese woman named Ching Chong, right, and assume that she has a large family, I am stereotyping her. But if I say to myself, Chinese people tend to have large families, I wonder if Ching Chong does. So that becomes generalizing. I hope you guys get what I mean here. So basically what they're trying to say here is that you can generalize something to say, okay, for instance, all guys have testicles, right? Or all guys have penises in this case. You can say it that way because I would assume that 95% of males would come with that. But you never know if someone is born with a condition that prevents them from having a penis, or if they went through a surgery due to multiple circumstances, right? So when you say go up to a cancer patient who probably has his penis removed or testicle removed in this case, and say that, hey, I believe you have a testicle, and that's basically me stereotyping all males as with a condition with certain characteristics, right? So hopefully you guys get that, and sorry for the bad example using testicles here. But Okay, so you see, right, just using this simple example, assuming guys, right, having penises, this is something that biologically we all expect it to happen, because unless there's a really unforeseen circumstance, right, you're going to expect 99% of the males, or at least maybe even 100% of males, to have this thing, right, that we call a dick, a penis. And the reason why we have this is because scientifically it has been proven, also biologically, that males come with penises, and this is not limited to only humans, right? Dogs, cats, mammals in general. So you see, right, when you have a certain percentage of accuracy, you can generalize things. Okay, imagine you're going to do some groceries, right, and you step in front of the fruit section, and you see that very nice section where they put all of their oranges there. Now, when you purchase oranges, you would assume that they're sweet, okay? But it's wrong to say not all oranges are sweet, because some of them may not be ripe, some of them may be of a different species or variation which still contains some sourness in them, right? And sometimes it's also subjective to whoever is eating them. But the question here is that in general, you know that oranges are sweet, and when you select the oranges, or if you don't, right, it comes in a bag, you would assume that they're all sweet. Is that right or wrong to assume? I'll pause for a while for you to think about that. Okay, now when we transfer the same methodology to humans, right, when we are labeling people based on certain characteristics, the question here is that, is it the right characteristic to stereotype people with? And personally, if it shows substantial, good, significant amount of accuracy, right, I think it's legit to do that. Of course, when we really get to know the person, or if we really get to know the subject or object itself, maybe we may change our minds, our understanding about that person. But, right, there is nothing wrong when you're generalizing based on accurate statistics or accuracy. If all gays, right, okay, in this case, all lesbians like females, right? If I go up to a lesbian and I tell her, hey, you like female, and they'll be like, no, I actually like guys, and why are you stereotyping me? Just because I'm lesbian, I must like females? And you'll be like, no, that's not what it means, right? Like, you're a lesbian for a specific reason, and that's the characteristics that we judge you with. So I understand that there are a lot of issues where, living in a country where we have three majority different types of races and religions, there's always a lot of stereotyping and generalization, not only with our internal races, Malays, Indians, Chinese, but we also have issues with immigrants, right? But I'll get there in a second. So, for people who are practicing Islam, they're not supposed to drink alcohol, they're not supposed to smoke, they're not supposed to touch dogs or even eat pork, right? But apart from that, they're also not supposed to touch what we call as non-halal meat, because halal is basically a way of executing the animals by draining their blood first and stuff like that. So if the chicken is not halal certified, then by right they shouldn't be eating that. But in general consensus, these are the types of things that they should not be doing based on their religion. Now, how many percentage of the people actually follow the rules? And the answer is not going to be very high. The percentage is not high, not a single bit. But you see, right, here is what we're doing. Generalization is basically us absorbing data and interpreting that data to assume things, right, to make assumptions because of the percentage and accuracy. So think of vaccines, okay, or think of a medication. So if a medication, right, if you're going to take a medication and the doctor tells you this is only going to cure your problem at a 95% rate, there's a 5% chance that it will not work for you, okay? Will you still take the medication? The answer is yes, it's 95%. What are the odds that I'm going to fail that 5%? And this is very similar with gambling. You're always playing the odds and in your favor. You want the high percentages on your end, because from a long run, from a very, very long run, you will make it happen, right? But if we flip the situation, right, let's say if the doctor tells you, here is a medication, it's the only medication that can potentially cure your problem, but there's a 95% chance it will fail, it won't cure your problem, there is that 5% chance. But the 95% chance failure will come with, symptoms or some side effects, or you may even die. Will you still take it? Answer is no, right? Why will I take something of such low percentage, generalizing the idea that I'm going to fail by taking this medication and still consume it, okay? So humans are logical and rational enough, okay, barring some idiots. Humans are capable of playing the odds. They know percentages, they understand what it means, and they're definitely going to pursue whatever gives them the higher chance of success or winning something, So it's not wrong, well, it's not entirely wrong to generalize and stereotype a person, but it is up to that person who maybe has a unique characteristic or a unique feature, something that separates him from the standard generalization or the stereotype, to come out and say, hey, actually I'm not good at this, or I don't have this kind of thing, or I don't have this issue, right? Like for my case, I know that my friend did judge me in the sense that I'm Chinese, I may be good at math, right? Which I am, thankfully. But if he were to say, hey, Kevin, can you show me some martial arts, right? Assuming that all Chinese can kick and dance around and fight like Jackie Chan, I would just straight up tell him, yeah, sorry, I'm not Chinese to that extent, I don't do martial arts, and I can't even backflip or something like that. So don't expect me to do that even though I'm Chinese. And here's the second thing, right? The statistic that a Chinese is able to perform martial art, what are the odds? We have 1.5 billion people in China, and I mean, if you include all of the other Chinese people around the world, maybe you have something close to 1.6 billion or maybe less, right? But the question here is, of that 1.6 billion, are you assuming that majority, 70-80% of them can execute martial arts to perfection? Or they can even just perform a high stand kick for this instance? The answer is no. When you are going to generalize and stereotype someone, always make sure that you have sufficient evidence to say that this is really the reason why, okay? If I were to pick 10 Asians or 10 Chinese people out, right, just randomly pick them out from different locations, different places, and if 10 of them can perform a high stand round kick, whatever, if they can perform martial arts, then yes, the chances are very good that all Chinese can perform to a certain level of martial arts. But that's not going to be true, right? If you're going to pull 10 people out, 10 Chinese out, they're definitely not going to be able to do that. But if you're asking them to maybe perform some mathematical calculation, I'm suspecting the chances are good that they will be able to come up with a quicker answer. Let's say if it's simple addition, subtraction, stuff like that, faster than most people, right? Because a lot of us are trained with cash, cash flow is part of our daily lives. So maybe, just maybe, that might be true. And that's where stereotyping and generalization goes wrong, because people like to generalize based on a very small sample size, right? Maybe I would know 10 friends, right? 10 Indian friends who are Hindus, right? For this instance, they pray to Shiva, they pray to their Hindu gods. And then, because of these 10 friends that I have, I assume that all Indians are part of this Hinduism group, right? But the question is, or actually not really a question, but the issue is, there are still Indians out there who subscribe to Christianity, right? But if you're not exposed to them, that's where you will realize that, oh, because I have a very small sample size, everyone should be the same. So that's where you're wrong. You need to go out, understand the real statistics, to understand what is the real percentage before you generalize things. So it's a very fine and gray line in between to play around with. But if you have the right numbers with a large sample size, I don't really see, where the problem is, right? Like my first example, all males have penises, right? Prove me wrong. I mean, with a 5% deviation, of course, all males are expected to have penises. all lesbians should love females or like females, right? And there's enough sample size to go around, right, to prove that point. So whenever we're talking about generalizing or stereotyping someone, make sure you have the facts. That's all I'm saying. The facts will tell you if it's okay to generalize or stereotype someone. But when you're stereotyping someone, if that person does not fall under generalization or the stereotype that you've assumed, it is up to that person to come up with the facts or to say that, hey, I'm different from the rest because I have this specific unique trait to me. See? So both sides need to play their part. One side needs to get their facts straight, right? To make sure they have all the evidence, the right information. And the other one is only to counter because they need to know within that stereotype or within that generalization, they are the minority. If you are minority, right, you are unique. And if you are unique, you cannot assume that when someone stereotypes you, right, they're being offensive. They are just doing whatever they can because that's our natural instinct, okay? It is humans' natural instinct to generalize, to stereotype something. Now, imagine if we were still cavemen, if we were running, around the hills, around the forest, we see a snake, okay? And if you believe snakes are poisonous, right, you would run away from snakes, right? Because maybe you assume that snakes are venomous and they will kill you if they ever bite you. So it is really, since our primitive kind, since our primitive selves, this is how we survived. Generalization, assuming that things will go wrong or assuming things that will cause problems, and we avoid it. So that's where the generalization came in, and it has done well to keep us alive until today, until we are 7 billion people strong on this planet, right? So don't take stereotyping and generalization so offensively, right, if the facts are right. If you can present, if you're working as a data analyst, right, all of this percentage will give you a very good accuracy. If you're a scientist, if you see anything above 80% or even 95%, if there's a 95% success rate, then it's good enough because, what are the odds of the 5%? And that's how our vaccines, especially for the COVID vaccines, that's how they get released because there's a sufficient success rate, for this to be pushed out. So I'm really hoping that everyone will be able to get the right number of facts before you start generalizing things and stereotyping people. I personally am very, very bad at this because I do tend to, when it comes to cognitive thinking, right? I'm not sure if you've read the science behind it. There are two layers in terms of the thought process. The first layer is when you see something and directly your brain assumes the closest memory, the latest memory that you have of something similar, and it just assumes that based on the person, right? So if I've had pasta last week at this place, and I think it was great, I come back this week, the same thing in my brain would be like, okay, this pasta is good. The same pasta is going to taste great, but I wouldn't even know if the chef has changed or the texture has changed, stuff like that. And my pasta today could be worse compared to what I had last week. So that is my first layer of defense, right? To assimilate what is my latest memory of something similar to what I'm seeing or what I'm experiencing in front of me. And then the next thing is when you have time to slow down, to think about things, you'll be like, okay, maybe the pasta may not taste the same anymore because the chef has left. So it's going to be someone new, you do not understand the cooking methods, and you just do not have confidence, right? So there are a lot of times when we judge based on our first layer of defense, which I think is fine if you don't react negatively to it, right? Like based on your last experience, then I think you'll be having a good time with your second layer of defense in terms of convincing you that maybe things are not as bad as it's supposed to be, or things might just be a little bit different, and it might be in your favor, in fact. So always take the time to think if you have the chance, right? Just think it through. If it's the right thing, then execute it. If not, if you think it's still wrong, then run away, avoid it, just ignore it. So moving back to the previous question, or one of the issues that I brought up with foreigners or immigrants in this case, Well, foreigners, you basically split them into two types, right? The first one is where you have your hard laborers coming from poorer countries, and then of course you have your expats from Western countries where they may hold a higher position in a multinational company, or maybe just something, right? They're just out there doing something on their own, and they're looked at with higher statuses, right? We look up to them indirectly because throughout the entire history, they have succeeded, they have done better than us, they are more technologically advanced, and that has carried down the ages, and that's why we still have that feelings for them. But if you think about it, right, when I was still young, my parents would always be afraid of me doing wrong things and running around, and they'd be like, hey Kevin, if you don't be quiet and if you don't be nice, I'm going to sell you off to foreigners, I'm going to sell you off to them. And as a kid, that just scared the shit out of me, and that one word, that one sentence basically just calms me down and make me stop whatever I'm doing. So the question here is that I always assumed as a kid that these immigrants are here to buy kids and bring them back to their families, their countries and stuff like that. And that is the wrong assumption, but that is something that's how Asian parents, or especially Chinese parents, treat their kids. And I don't even know how they came up with this fact, right? Or how they even came up with this lie. But it seems it's a very common lie that everyone has said. A lot of Chinese families have said, right? And I wonder, this is the wrong generalization or stereotyping to have. It's not even a stereotype. It's the wrong generalization because the facts and the data is definitely not accurate. No one is here to buy kids. I mean, maybe a small percentage, right? You never know. There are some idiots out there, some unique people, but majority, 99% of them are not here to buy kids. They're here to earn a living. They're here to support themselves and their families back home, right? So for any new parents, please try not to scare your kids, right? Rather than saying, I'll sell you off, or I'll let some person to catch you, just tell them that, hey, I'm going to stop you from using your cell phones, stop you from playing a handphone or computers or laptops. I think that's more effective in today's era. So just to wrap it all up, right, my stance here is that generalization and stereotyping is factually not wrong. It is our first layer of defense, right? For everyone who is trying to say, hey, you should not be generalizing, stereotyping people or things, to that I say good for you, but being hypocritical, you're definitely also executing the same thing on your end, but you're just at a different issue. Everyone has that first layer of defense in terms of specific things and based on their previous experiences. So the true answer here is that when you generalize or stereotype something, think it through. Is it a real thing that is factual? Is it something that I can repeat and say, hey, this is definitely the same thing that's going to happen, the results will be the same? Then probably yes. Okay, the answer is yes. Maybe you can generalize things. It works. So don't suppress people who are trying to generalize if they do have the facts. And for stereotyping, if there is a real reason why there's a generalization, right? And I mean, think about it. If 1.5 billion people on Facebook, right? What are the odds that I speak to someone and say, hey, I want to add you on Facebook, and the person would be like, huh, are you stereotyping me just because I'm sociable, I have Facebook social media, right? It is up to that person to say that, hey, just because most people have Facebook doesn't mean I have a Facebook account. That person needs to provide the evidence that they are different, they are unique from the rest, and they should not be mad at it, right, if it's true. So that's my takeaway today, and I hope you guys are able to understand the concept, and also just to dive deeper whenever you're trying to generalize things yourself and go through that second layer of defense. Think about it before it comes out your mouth. Think about it before you react to certain things if you can. So yeah. And I just want to leave one last quote as well before I end today's podcast episode, and that would be, if everyone is unique, right, nobody is. And that, booyah, is a form of generalization itself. Okay, alright. This is what in Chinese we call 自嗨. Well, if you enjoy our episode today and you would like to listen to more content like this, please do like, share, and subscribe, and leave us a comment on Hello Cannot Podcast on Instagram. And please take care and look forward to our next episode. Thank you guys. Take care.